How the trans movement is erasing Black women from history, setting the record straight about Pauli Murray. In the fall of 2023, I came across a blog post that proudly referred to Pauli Murray, an iconic Black female civil rights activist and late historical figure, as a queer non-binary ancestor. The author of this post consistently referred to Murray using they/them pronouns, noting that there is a newly released documentary that highlights the depth and breadth of Murray's life, and that the film is for, quote-unquote, God freaks, poets, and devotees to queer abundance. Naturally, that article led me down a rabbit hole. What was the meaning of all this? A quick Google search immediately surfaced dozens of new blog articles, academic papers, books, films, and nonprofit organizations, many of whom were positioned as reliable sources who insisted upon posthumously referring to Pauli Murray as a transgender man and/or non-binary queer person, and referring to her using they, them, he, him, and ze/zir pronouns. As a scholar of Black women's history, and as a Black woman myself, I must admit that I was genuinely shocked and alarmed to see this level of erasure of our presence. And I also knew that I had to get to the bottom of this. Because one thing is for sure, Murray never used any of these labels or pronouns to refer to herself. The word transgender wasn't even in existence throughout most of Murray's life, and the term non-binary, along with its full spectrum of neo-pronouns that are now being forcibly assigned to her from the grave, have only proliferated in Western culture within the past 8 years, decades after her death. In fact, Pauli Murray had always referred to herself as a Black woman, a Negro woman to be exact, with a capital N, and her experiences and understandings of her social positioning as a Negro woman are exactly what fueled her fierce advocacy work within the U.S. civil rights movement from the 1930s until her death in 1985. The whole point of her legacy is that she was such a powerful, dynamic force, despite the odds stacked against her due to her race and her sex. The whole point is that she advocated for both racial equality and women's sex-based rights for her own sake, as well as for future generations. So what gives? Something is clearly being taken out of context. And what exactly is that thing? What is giving so many people the audacity to posthumously rewrite Pauli Murray's history, her identity, her personal struggles, the context in which she achieved her groundbreaking work, and the community she belonged to in order to box her into a modern-day transgender narrative? I made a special trip to the Harvard Schlesinger Library of Women's History, where Pauli Murray's archives are stored, to find out. I wanted to read the same exact source material that others had hijacked. I read Murray's diaries, medical records, research clippings, and personal letters to bear witness to what she said in her own voice, without the filter of those who had so aggressively repackaged her thoughts, words, and experiences for their own purposes. This essay, first and foremost, sets the record straight about Pauli Murray. It clearly demonstrates how posthumously referring to Murray as transgender, queer, or non-binary is not only wrong and disrespectful, it is also historically inaccurate.